Welcome back to Heart and Wisdom Creators, LLC. Tonight's chapter continues the haunting journey of 11-year-old Minato, still grieving the loss of his parents and adjusting to life in his grandparents' old home at the edge of Mount Fuji in Japan. That night, Minato couldn't sleep, even after his warm tea, after his grandparents' comforting words, and saying his prayers. Something tugged at him. By the time the old clock on his wall ticked towards 3 a.m., Minato was already awake, staring at the silver glow of the moon spilling across his floor. The house was silent except for the faint creaking of the beams in the attic above and the soft whisper of the breeze outside. He sat up slowly. His body felt heavy from a fever, but his heart pounded with a restless curiosity he couldn't push away. Then it came, soft, familiar, a man's voice drifting from the direction of the forest. Minato. He froze, his breath caught in his throat. Minato, come here, son. His eyes widened. It sounded so much like, no, it couldn't be. Dad? The voice drifted again, gentle this time. I need you. Come closer. Against everything his grandfather had told him, against the instructions repeated again and again, Minato stood up from his futon. He whispered to himself, I just need to look, just need to see. He tiptoed down the hall, glancing at his grandparents' door. They were asleep. He knew they trusted him. He knew he should stop. But the voice, it nudged his heart like a memory he desperately wanted back. Minato unlocked the back door as quietly as he could. The night air rushed in, cold and earthy. The crickets had gone silent, as though the world was holding its breath. He stepped outside. The forest line loomed ahead, darker than usual, as though the shadows were thicker tonight. Again, the voice called, a little further away this time. Minato, I'm right here. He took one step towards the trees, then another. His bare feet brushed the cold grass, and the night seemed to coil around him. The closer he got to the forest line, the more the air changed. A chill ran through him, the same kind of cold he felt in his uncle's art room just before the entity had revealed itself. But the voice called again, warm, familiar, and Minato pressed forward. He reached the exact spot where the toy soldier had once been buried. The moonlight fell in a pale circle around him. The whispering wind threaded through the branches overhead. Dad? Minato whispered, his voice trembling. Is that you? The forest grew still. Something moved behind a cluster of trees. A shape. A shift. A ripple of darkness that did not belong. The voice changed. The warmth was gone. Now it was thin, wrong. Minato! Fear punched through him. His breath shook. Dad? He stepped back. The shadows pressed forward. The temperature around him dropped so fast he could see his breath. Minato suddenly remembered Dr. Hoshino's words. Darkness learns your sadness. It feeds on He stumbled back one step, then another. He wanted to run, but his legs felt like lead. Then, Minato! A shout split the night. His grandfather's voice, hard, terrified, trembling with anger and fear. The shadows snapped back into the forest like a recoiling serpent. Minato turned. His grandfather stood at the doorway, flashlight in hand, face pale, eyes wide. "Get inside!" he commanded, voice sharp. Minato obeyed instantly, running across the yard and into his grandfather's arms. His chest heaved, his skin felt frozen. The world blurred around him. Grandpa held Minato tight and said with a shaking voice, "You do not answer voices in the dark, ever!" Minato clung to him, tears hot against his cold skin. I thought it was Dad." Grandpa's voice cracked as he pulled him closer. "That thing knows what you miss most. That's why you must never go alone." Minato trembled in his arms. The night outside stayed unnaturally quiet, as if something had been waiting, and it had almost succeeded. That morning, the house felt different. Even after Grandpa wrapped Minato in blankets and sat with him until he fell asleep, an uneasy quiet settled over the home, the kind that seemed to press against the walls. When Minato finally woke, sunlight filled his room, but it didn't feel warm like it usually does. Frost clung to the inside of his windows, even though it was early summer. He swallowed hard. That had never happened. He pulled the covers back and shivered. His breath misted in front of him. Something had followed him home. Minato slowly stood, rubbing his arms. He heard movements downstairs. His grandmother cooking breakfast, his grandfather chopping wood outside. Everything seemed normal, but it was too normal, too silent between each sound. As he changed his clothes, he reached for his backpack and froze. The scrap of paper with the Lord's Prayer was sticking halfway out of the pocket, but the edges were curled, burned black as though it had been held close to a fire. He stared, heart thudding. He hadn't touched it since last night. Did something else do it? A knock suddenly rattled the upstairs hallway. 3 slow taps, not from the door to his bedroom, but from the door to the art room. Minato's stomach dropped. Grandfather had locked that door last night. He saw him do it. The knocking came again. This time softer, almost polite. "Minato." The voice was faint, muffled through the wooden door. But this time, it wasn't pretending to sound like Dad. It was cold, wrong, hungry. Minato staggered back, his hand instinctively going to the pocket with the Lord's Prayer. His fingers brushed the scorched paper, and a whisper of warmth pulsed through it, as though it were reacting. Then, crack! The art room door jerked inward, as though something slammed into the other side. Minato gasped and clapped his hand over his mouth. A sharp, scraping sound began. Nails? Claws? Just dragging across the floor inside, moving closer to the door. Grandfather's voice suddenly boomed from downstairs. Minato! Stay where you are! Don't open that door! Minato could not have moved if he tried. Every hair on his arm stood straight. The scraping stopped. Silence. Then a whisper. So close it seemed to breathe against the other side of the door. You came when I called you once. And you will again. The lights in the hallway flickered. A cold wind pressed against the crack of the door, swirling around Minato's feet. He squeezed his eyes shut and whispered the Lord's Prayer under his breath, fast, trembling over and over. And just as it had come, the cold vanished. The lights steadied. The presence retreated like a receding tide. But the message was clear. By leaving the house last night, Minato didn't just hear the entity. He invited it closer. He gave it permission to find him. And now it wanted more. Thank you so much for joining us on Minato's journey tonight. If you enjoyed this story, please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next chapter. More stories like this are always on the way here at Hearts and Wisdom Creators, LLC. And coming soon, we'll be releasing a special activity book on Amazon filled with mazes, word searches, crossword puzzles, and fun games inspired by our stories. Until next time, keep your hearts open, your wisdom growing, and your imagination alive. See you soon!